So welcome everyone. My name is Nick Wagner. I'm a friend of Terry's, and we're going to be talking about find your sanctuary, create space for grace.
Yeah, thanks. Not just a friend, a good friend. Nick and Diana are part of my people. In other words, they're important. You know, you got to have people that you connect with, make life better.
Yeah, and you mentioned Diana, my wife, Diana McAlintel. She's in the background running tech on all this, so if she's making sure that we sound good and look good here, so thanks.
Yeah, and thank you, Diana. Thank you. Diana just retired. Diana was the director of worship. Was it worship or what? Something.
Yeah, director of worship.
Diocese of San Jose?
Yes.
So she went from director of worship, Diocese of San Jose, to helping Amish people do tech things.
It's a big step up in the world for her. Terry, you want to give folks a little preview of what you're going to offer at the end of this thing when we're all done?
Well, the thing about sanctuary, and okay, I'll be honest. If I had my druthers, I wouldn't be doing this as a webinar. I would click my ruby heels, and I would take everybody to my garden, literally. And we do this walking around my garden because I talk about this subject. I mean, it's okay if, the number of people who are listening, which is wonderful, but I talk about it because this is something I need. It's vital for me to stay sane, and more than ever, I need to stay sane. So I'll do anything I can to help with this. When people ask me what I do for a living, I tell them I'm in the refueling business. And so all the books I write are about refueling, pausing, sanctuary, soul gardening. And so one of the ways to do it is retreats. If people can't do a retreat, they can do a private retreat, which is the e-course. And the e-course is essentially a private retreat, although there's a whole community of people that will be taking it. So yeah, obviously we're going to get a lot done in this hour that we're together, but the invitation is for people to take the next step and do a retreat. I call e-course, e-retreat.
Great. So we'll hear more about that towards the end. So.
Yep.
All right.
Ready? Oh. Am I supposed to answer that?
No, you're supposed to ask people.
Oh, I see. Yeah, well, it's just a check-in because it's interesting when people say about the subject sanctuary, they say, does it relate to people? And so I ask this. Can people actually answer this? Can they type this in?
Yeah. So what we'd like you to do, folks, Terry's going to ask you some questions here about how you deal with struggles in your life. And if you just type yes or no in the questions box there, so we get a sense of where you are, it's just a way for everybody to check in here, and Terry's going to go through some simple yes or no questions here for you.
Yeah. Well, do you struggle with how you can make life-giving choices if your spirit or heart is on empty? And all of us would say yes to that, I would think, but it'd be great for people to type in how it is they know their heart or spirit is on empty.
Yeah, so we're getting some yeses here. Lots of folks, like you said, Terry, most folks are saying yes to that.
Yeah. Where do I see that? Because I want to see that too.
There's a questions box there, Terry, in your panel, and you can pull that questions box out and expand that. You should see them.
Okay.
You see them now?
No, but I see. Yeah, I see them now.
There you go.
But I'd love to know what the other words were. I mean, like for me, there are times when I feel depleted. That's how I know I'm on empty.
Yeah. So a couple things. People are saying no clear sense of direction. Yes, I feel something. I identify as depression. Depression when on empty. Yes, I go to nature, take a bike ride. Yes, confusion. Yes, heart empty, anxiety or fear creeps in. Yes, I start having sleep issues. No joy, human doing, solitude, sad, restless, weary, tired.
Yeah, and this is helpful. And the reason, because a yes, no, and one of the things that's beneficial, just like when you go to a physician and they look through symptoms, the symptoms help you identify. So if I want to find sanctuary for a reason, I need to know what the symptom is. Yeah. And this is very helpful.
So let's do the next question.
Next question, do you believe your plate is too full? Oh, Lord have mercy. Do you believe your plate is too full and wonder what choices to make if you can't do it all? I went to the store, literally. I was supposed to buy Triscuits. I'm thinking, this should be easy, Triscuits. So you go in, there's no such thing as just Triscuits anymore. There are like 80 choices of Triscuits. And I'm thinking, so then I end up laying on the floor of the grocery store in a fetal position. And they say, "Sir, can we help you?" And I say, "No, I have to go do a webinar on sanctuary."
So we're getting a few no's to this question, folks. Some folks, their plate is fine. It's not too full. We're getting a couple of yeses. So some people, Cece says, definitely I go until I collapse.
I tell you, the people who go until they collapse are the people who really are giving from their heart. You know, I see that in ministry and healthcare and education, and it's like that was the old adage in church: if you want to volunteer, just find somebody who's already busy.
Yeah. So let's see. Dawn says, not really, trying to keep it simple, sister. Karen says, my plate is not too full. Have learned how to do only what my spirit is needing. That's great, Karen. That's good to hear. David says, pretty full, but I enjoy solitude. Maggie says, yes, now I'm moving out of town. Oh, you're just leaving your plate behind, huh, Maggie? Moving to a new plate? Melissa says, when my plate is too full, there is a lack of focus and anxiety creeps in. I just have to remember to breathe and let control go. Wow.
Okay, yeah, let's hang on to that word. Well, I'll pull the thread with that word focus. Let's hang on to that word, because one of the things with a plate that gets full is we don't know what to look at.
Yeah.
We don't know where to look. Yeah. Exactly.
And I think we have one more question here.
Okay. Do you wonder if you are enough? Oh, well, or the messages that tell you you're not enough.
Yeah.
That's probably personal because of my upbringing. My upbringing was from a very conservative religious environment, and God was never happy with me or us. And so therefore I always needed to prove something to someone. And I mean, even when we talk about sanctuary as we go through this, I mean, even when I'm doing sanctuary, I'm still trying to do it perfectly.
Yeah, I'm an oldest child. I get that completely. Let's see. Melissa says every day. Cheryl says always. Julie says I know I'm not. David says no, he doesn't want to do that. That's great. Let's see. You're typing so fast I can't read them all. Sue says yes, since I was a child. Cece says I struggle with being enough for myself and everyone else. Anna says no. Teresa says being female lends itself not to being enough from the get-go. Anna says yes, and because the church teaches us that we're always in sin. Yeah. All right. So Terry, you mentioned about your own story. Why don't you tell us? This might be an opportunity for you. Just give some folks some background on your story and why you're doing all this.
There she is. That's just so I know, as the Amish guy's asking here, I see me and I see you and I see my grandmother. Is that what people see?
That's what everybody's seeing. Yep. Except we're seeing two versions of you. We're going back in time. And
I have to. People are saying, "Wow, look at that! That really." Well, this is there's a woman, and I'm going to read the story. But this, when Loyola, I had done a book called Pause, and Loyola said, "Can you write a book about how people can pause specifically?" And that's the origin of the Sanctuary book. And my first thought was, "What am I going to say?" And so I had to ask myself the question, which is the question of the webinar today: how do we find it or create it? And by the way, I'm going to read you a story. And I'm going to tell you, I did not know the photo that you're seeing existed when I wrote this story. And so I found this photo later. And here we go. In the latter years of her life, in the backyard of her home in northern Florida, my grandmother had a porch swing. She liked to sit and swing and hum old church hymns, such as Rock of Ages, Cleft for Me. I can still see her there wearing a white scarf over her head, a concession to chemotherapy's unrelenting march. When as a young adult I visited her, she would always ask me to sit with her on the swing for a spell. She would pat my leg, and she called me darling. As long as my grandmother lived, and in spite of her pain, there was always a place for me on the swing. If I were asked to explain grace, I would paint the picture of my grandmother's swing. because there I never had to deliberate or explain or worry, regardless of the weight I carried. The porch swing, my grandmother's presence, bestowed grace without conditions. And I am here today because of that porch swing. I am here today because of a sanctuary.
Wow.
I have to read the story.
You didn't know this picture was around?
No, the book was published, and so, you're going through your old stuff when you're cleaning out closets and attics, and there was an old box of old slides, and this was in there.
Wow.
Which tells me that my memory was accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And it tells me that at one time I did look youthful.
Sue says, well, it's lucky your smile is the same.
Well, and this is the deal, and because images are powerful to me, as a writer, as a storyteller, you guys get that. You guys know that in the ministry that you do. But when people ask about and so there's images I want people to carry through about sanctuary. And the first one is swing. And the swing is a place I was completely safe there. And what's remarkable is, even though life was crushing, I mean, cancer ended up taking my grandmother's life, but even in the middle of that, we had a place where I was safe.
Yeah.
And Joseph Campbell talks about a place where I didn't owe anybody and no one owed me.
Yeah.
And so that's my new thing now. Where's your swing? Because if we stop, and maybe we won't be able to identify it yet, maybe we'll come to it by the end of the hour, but everyone has a swing somewhere.
Yeah. I don't know if you can see the questions there, Terry, but Alice says, I hope that I'm the kind of grandmother I think I am, and it's given me sanctuary to be in relationship with this 9-year-old, with her 9-year-old, I think is what she's saying, her 9-year-old grandchild, I'm assuming. So that's great. Thanks, Alice, for chiming in there.
That's great.
Well, Terry, you mentioned about being in a place, and maybe you want to just give folks some indicators that they're in the right place today. We'll get the next slide up here.
That's a great picture.
Yeah, it is.
My grandmother always, and it's interesting, my grandmother came from a very conservative religious environment.
Yeah.
But her opinion was, but there's always a place at my table.
Yeah. Wow.
There's always a place.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
There's always a place. So you are in the right place if you want a space where you can be replenished and renewed again and again. If you want to be present for your own life, that's like the little boy that said to his mom, Mama, listen to me, but this time with your eyes.
Yeah.
I want to be here. If you want to find your own voice, yeah. If you want to feel glad, yeah, glad. And gladness is a big deal. And the corollary to gladness is gratitude, because a glad heart comes from a grateful heart. I don't have to try to make up gladness. Because I'm grateful, gladness fills. If you want to be more grateful, there it is. Interesting. If you want your relationships to be affirming and healing, and that's the thing I have discovered when I'm practicing sanctuary, and this is the powerful thing about my grandmother, when I'm practicing sanctuary, I can then be a swing set for others.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
In other words, I can be a place where people find that. If you want to learn how to make life-giving choices, if you want to invite more grace into your life, if you want to have peace of mind and feel re-energized even if your life is hectic. Amen. I say amen.
And Terry, we got a question from Daniel. Finding your sanctuary, did you ever feel guilty going there, giving in to your need?
Not only did I feel guilty, but I was told by the church I was raised in that I should feel guilty. In fact, I was told that it's called selfish. And so I'm going to preach here. I need to preach. I got to preach every now and again. This is what happens to me when I'm not on my medication. They tell you if you don't do that, it's selfish. If you go take care of yourself, it's selfish. Here's the irony. When I was so preoccupied, and this is in my ministry too, when I did parish work, in my ministry, I was so preoccupied and busy trying to take care of people, fix people, worry about what people thought, worry about what they thought about me, that I was never really there. And so the irony is I was only focused on myself, which is selfish.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the irony is that when I go to my sanctuary place, I now, like, once I've spent time in the swing of my grandmother, I can go someplace without the need to fix somebody, without the need to make somebody okay, without the need to be the answer person. You know?
Yeah, it's kind of a paradox that, you know, by letting go of that, you're really being more present to folks.
Exactly. And so the bottom line to what we're saying here is that care of any kind, I don't care what kind of care it is, whether it's listening or service or teaching or ministry or, well, I don't care what kind of care it is. Every kind of care begins with self-care. Every time we get on a plane, they go through the things. Oxygen mask, what do you do with the oxygen mask?
Yeah, you first.
Put your own mask on first and then help everyone around you.
Yeah.
The same deal.
Anna says, exactly the sickness of ministry work is that what you are describing, been there, done it, and won't do it again. So that's why I can't ever work for a church.
Well, and you know what? I say I agree, and God bless you. And I don't, because the thing about ministry I've discovered is that it doesn't just happen inside the walls of a church or a ministry. It happens wherever we are in our lives. Yeah. And one of the things I want to do, and we might get to it some today, is I want us to help change the cultures of the workplaces we live in. I mean, I was just this last week with healthcare workers, hospice workers, and because, you know, what they do is unbelievably important. And so the question is, can we create an environment where we don't burn each other out? Yeah. Where we don't get fried? Yeah. Because I don't need you to be fried when you're doing your ministry. Yeah.
So let's look at what we are going to do today. We're going to cover 4 big things, and we'll weave a lot of the questions and comments folks have as we go through these 4 major areas. First, we're going to cover why do we need sanctuary?
Right.
Second is, what is sanctuary? Third, how do we find sanctuary? And fourth is kind of just what you were saying, Terry, what's going to happen to us and to the world when we find sanctuary.
Yeah.
So, and also, let's see, there was a question here about what we're going to do. Jerry said, are you going to lead us through a meditation process?
Sort of. I'm going to give you the framework for when we get to the how do we find sanctuary, or what is, maybe in one of those. I'm going to give you the framework, in my language, the liturgy. The liturgy for what would be a meditation process. There are some meditations in the e-course if they wanted to do that, but this gives you the framework. And so, in a sense, we are, yeah.
Okay. So a couple more comments I want to get to before we dive in here. Therese says, I left teaching for all those reasons. It's so difficult to work as a teacher and have time for self-care. And Dawn says, I was recently wrongfully terminated from a job where I worked 50 plus hours a week to take care of everyone else. Now enjoying job searching while spending time with my son, who just got back to college. He and I are enjoying the new growth in his pollinator pit stop garden. I think she planted last spring, and enjoying this webinar.
Yeah, and let me say this, Don, thank you for writing that, because what I've discovered, it doesn't really matter what it is, whether it's any kind of personal growth issue, and sanctuary is one of those, is there's a tendency for me to think about what I need to do yet to either have this in my life or be better at it. And sometimes I miss the reality that these moments happen for me already throughout my day or week. Just like she's talking about. Now look at, I mean, that's extraordinary.
Yeah, yeah.
I can focus on the wrongfully terminated part, but she's focusing on I love the pollinator garden or whatever she called it. And so there are times when I walk right by moments of sanctuary in my day or my week. Walk right by them. Yeah. So
Terry, you've touched on this a little already, but let's dive deeper into that first main question. Why do we need sanctuary?
So I'm going to tell a quick story. So a typical compulsive American man took a safari to Africa. And because he's a typical American man, he had to take stuff with him because that's what makes us Americans. We can't go anywhere without stuff. And we pay the airline extra, of course, to take our stuff. But so this is a true story, which sounds funny from a minister, but this is a true story. So he hired 2 tribes of people to carry his stuff, 2 tribes. And on the first day, they got up very, very early, traveled very, very fast, went very, very far. Second day, they got up very, very early, traveled very, very fast, went very, very far. Third day, got up very, very early, traveled very, very fast, went very, very far. And the 4th day, he got up, and the tribes people refused to move. They sat by a tree. And the translators, of course, the Americans ticked off. The translator said they're waiting for their souls to catch up with their bodies. Why do we need sanctuary? Because we want our souls to catch up with our bodies. Mama, listen to me, but this time with your eyes. In other words, I want to be in this space. We call it, we talk about it grounded. I want to be grounded. I want to be here. So that's why we need it. And the other reason is that we need a paradigm shift because right now, one of the reasons I get disconnected from my body and or my spirit and whatever is that I've given into the paradigm about how my identity is measured in this culture. So one of the things, the takeaways for this webinar is that the paradigm can change. For example, right now the paradigm of the culture is that my identity is measured on what I've accomplished.
Yes.
In fact, we do this when we talk to each other, you know, not just how are you doing, but what are you doing? What did you get done this week? Was it successful? And it's like all of a sudden the paradigm is predicated on I'm not enough. It's not enough. It's no wonder we get worn down. I mean, what would happen if I begin the conversation with Nick, tell me about your swing set this week?
Yes.
Exactly. I mean, tell me about your sanctity. We don't do that. Why don't we do that? So why do we need it? Because we need to change the paradigm.
Let's see, I got a technical question here. This is maybe for Diana. I keep losing video. Could you or Terry read the slides? Right now, Donald, we don't have slides showing. It's just me and Terry talking. Carol says, hope you will talk about how to deal with the deep beliefs, perceptions that can pop up when we seek sanctuary. I too come from 300 years of Amish Mennonite history. Wow. Sue says, love that. The paradigm needs to change. How we start conversations. Tell me about your garden. And Therese says, yes, what I do versus who I am. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the first thing is the fact that we're gathered here having this conversation is beginning to address what she says is about the deep beliefs. Because here's what happens. If I don't have the permission's a big word for me. If I don't have the permission to change this paradigm, then I have given in to the other paradigm by default. I mean, I don't even, for example, this is a part of the paradigm right here. I mean, I could hypothetically, I could be doing double duty here on this webinar. And
yeah. So say a word about that. How does sanctuary release you from that or give you permission to not do that?
Well, so the question I need to ask is from what, from where do I derive my sense of well-being? Where I can do, it's okay.
Yeah.
Because there's a tendency, do I need to do that? Am I required to do that? Yeah. And one of the messages that she's talking about, the deep messages, is they've attached, many religious or upbringings have attached the word should to it. And it's not just religion that attaches it. I should do that. Think about Madison Avenue, our entire culture, the entire culture of where we live is predicated on something you should do, should buy. And so one of the powerful words, and this is why we need to, back to the question about why we need sanctuary, is because when we give into the default paradigm, we lose the word no. We can't use the word no.
Yeah.
The word no doesn't have, because we think, see, we've been taught that no is a complete sentence. and a completely
Especially when it comes with an exclamation mark at the end.
no. Yeah, no.
When we lose that no, then that's when the plate becomes too full. You don't say no
Right.
before you get to the edge of the plate, or that leads to depletion and overwhelm and all of that.
Well,
stuff.
it's fascinating to me when I look at Jesus. Jesus used the word no, and it really bummed the people out. I mean, he would go off to pray, and they're thinking, wait, you're not done with your work yet. How can you go? You're supposed to be healing people.
People
And you're and they're going, Jesus, do you want to be a good Messiah or not? you need to quit doing this, Lord, whatever that is, that sanctuary thing you're doing.
Yeah.
But he knew that for him to be enough, he needed to have a swing set. His swing set was his prayer time with his Father. Yes. Anyway.
And I know you said this before, but I just want to underline it. Could you say real clearly why doing that, why Jesus going off when there's work to do, why that is not selfish, but that is in fact key to the ministry of caring for others?
Because what it does is it recalibrates the motivation by which we do the work. And Dawn just wrote, choose to replace the word no, N-O, with K-N-O-W. I like that, no. And so it recalibrates. For example, if the creator in Genesis, you remember the book Genesis?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's an old book. If the creator took a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Creating. Creator. Well, the creator probably could have gone 7 days in a row. But no, because the creator was acknowledging that there is a part of us that needs to be rehydrated, replenished. In other words, it's in our DNA. This isn't something that we add to our life. That's the paradigm shift there. This is not something to add to our life. This is something inside of you. And today, the question is, can we honor that? What are the ways we honor that?
Yeah. Well, that's a good springboard, I think, into our next big chunk of things we want to talk about is, when you say it's inside of us, Terry, you also use the image of Jesus going off somewhere, which is a little bit of an external image. And if for folks who are not practiced at doing this, it can get a little confusing. What is sanctuary exactly? Do I have to go to a beach like this? Do I have to move to Vashon? What is sanctuary?
Yes, you have to move to Vashon Island. That's exactly what you have to do.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because, and wherever we move to, even the places that become sanctuary for us. I mean, I used to go to the Benedictine monastery called in Vallermo, out in the high desert in Southern California. I used to go there all the time. My spiritual director was out there, but I mean, for me it was sanctuary, but for some of those guys it wasn't. The sanctuary is different for all of us.
Yeah.
So I've given you one picture, and the one picture is the swing. In other words, it's a place where I'm safe, right?
Yeah.
So here's another picture. This is another story. It's a diner story. A mom and a dad and a young girl were at a southern diner, and there was a waitress who was like Flo in the old TV series. And so she comes over to the dad, and she says, "What do y'all have?" And y'all in Southern means one person. What do y'all have? And he says, "I'll have a this, a this, and a this." And then she turns to the wife, and the husband, who's one of these kind of husbands, says, "And the wife will have." and this, this, and this. And then Floish, the woman, turns to the little girl and says, "And sugar, what do y'all have?" And before the dad can light her up, the little girl gets a big smile and grin, and she says, "I'll have a hot dog." And then her dad blows up, says, "She will not have a hot dog. She'll have a this, this, and this." And the waitress turns from the dad back to the little girl, and she says, "Sugar, what do y'all want on that hot dog?"
Yeah.
And as she's walking away, the dad's, just undone. The little girl says to her mom and dad, "Mom and dad, Mom and dad, that lady thinks I'm real."
Yeah.
So what is sanctuary? Sanctuary is a place where I don't need to pretend to be somebody I'm not.
Mm, yeah, that's a great definition. I like that.
And so where is it? Well, we'll get to the where is it but that's the what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I get so preoccupied with the where. In other words, having the perfect beach or the perfect chair or the whatever. And the truth is, there's a time in my morning with a cup of coffee, just strolling my garden. I mean, it doesn't, or it can be, for some people who are asking, does it have to be a place? No, it doesn't have to be a place. It can be in my mind. And sometimes we create those sanctuary places. For some people on their commute, the music they listen to or the audiobook they listen to, and if they listen to my audiobook, that'd be great. Anyway, whatever it is, it can be sanctuary.
Well, that spurred a lot of comments here. Excuse me. Let's see. Where do we start here? Charles.
Somebody said that. What is that?
Charles says, sanctuary is an opportunity to revisit why God loves us and how we can do likewise.
Oh, that's terrific.
Keith says, I can't take off work. I'd love to come to Vashon. Daniel says, when I was a teenager, I'd go to the beach at night and find peace from my father's alcoholism. I did not know then that this was sanctuary.
Hey, pause that for a minute. The huge deal is, and that was the thing about writing that thing about my grandmother's swing. I did not know then that was sanctuary.
Yeah.
Now, what's important is now that I know, I can be intentional about it. Intentional is a big word. It'll be a big word throughout the day. But now that I know, I can be, for example, if my father who's alive, he's 83, but my father would never sit on a Weber like this. He wouldn't go to my workshops. He wouldn't do any of this thing, read my book. But you take my dad fishing.
Yeah.
Sanctuary.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he might not use the language, but he's practicing sanctuary.
Yeah. Yvonne says, the last 2 years I look forward to your talks at Congress. That's the Los Angeles Religious Education Congress. It happens once a year. She says, that was my sanctuary. While I'm there, I'm fed and okay, and I go home and it's gone. I come home to the external demands that dismiss my light and demand more. How do we cultivate that strength of sanctuary and carry it into our regular demanding lives?
Wow, that's a great question. I wish we had time for answers. We only have time for questions.
We only have time for the questions.
Well, because that's the deal is people say this if they go to an experience like that, or even in vacation, they say, man, I wish I could carry this through the rest of my days or whatever it is. And I need to give myself the permission to do that in bite-sized chunks. See, that's the thing. Is I get in this notion it's got to be an all or nothing, that I have to have that same kind of experience. And I don't give myself the freedom to have 5-minute intervals or 10-minute intervals or a half-hour interval or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But there are small ways to do this. Somebody mentioned the meditation earlier. There are meditations that I can do in a period of just 2 to 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. But it's just it's a timeout. And I'll get to that when we, like, how do we find sanctuary?
Let's move to that, Terry. Give us some more examples of how we can do those small chunks, and maybe how do we, you said sanctuary is in our DNA. How do we access our DNA or discipline ourselves to regularly engage in sanctuary? So how do we do that?
Yes, okay, this is the practical part. If people want to write this down, this is it. Mm-hmm. This is the creating the liturgy, the framework. And there are 2 ways that we find sanctuary. And this was the most helpful for me learning it. And the one is find is a good verb there, because I'm not adding sanctuary to my life. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to get sanctuary and then trying to have some sort of willpower program. No, I'm asking.
I just want to emphasize that for those of us who are raised in that kind of religious background where you're trying to accomplish things to please some external force, or my mother, that you're not going out to look for it somewhere and add it into your life. I think that's just so important to underline it.
Well, and I mean, you know this because you both are in the RCIA business, right? And the teaching in RCIA is something that's already internal. So how do you get that out from here to here, rather than how do I learn something out here right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's that shift. So here's step number one. How do I find sanctuary? And I'm glad that you moved us on, because I'm glad that you're in charge of this, because I would just keep talking. That's my favorite thing I ever did when I was a guest preacher was I said, how long do I preach? And he said, you can preach as long as you want, but the people leave at 12.
As long as you want, Terry, but the people are leaving at the top of the hour.
Oh, we got to get cruising here. Okay, so number one is the word portal. Write this down, the word portal. Portal. A portal is an entry or a doorway. But two things happen. You go into something, but you leave something behind. I live on an island. There's no bridge. There's a ferry. And this struck me when I land. I fly a lot, but when I land, come home to my island to get on the ferry, I crest the hill in West Seattle. I can see my island, I can see the ferry, and I notice that as soon as I see that, my heartbeat starts to slow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my foot comes off the gas. In other words, it's like, whew. In other words, the portal. So what I'm asking people is not just to look. I'm not looking just for sanctuary. I'm looking for the portals that take me into the sanctuary that exists.
Mm-hmm.
I have a time for a quick story, right?
Yep.
Quick story. So I went to Betty's house. Betty was an old woman. Let me rephrase that. Betty was an older woman. Anyway, Betty was a mature woman. Betty was at least 85. And Betty said, I want to show you my special place. I said, that's great. So she takes me to her garden, small garden, very narrow pathways. They used to be wide, very narrow. And I'm thinking, Lord have mercy. This is not good. Lord have mercy. Big pots, plants. We get to her, and I'm thinking, I'm the garden expert. I'm going to fix this for her because this doesn't work. I can make this better, I'm thinking. Betty, you're walking single file, and I'm thinking, Lord have mercy. We get around, there's this old wicker chair, and she says, there it is, my special place. I said, what's that? She said, that's called when the world pisses me off chair. I said, Betty, that's perfect. I can sell that. She said, sometimes the world pisses me off, and I need to go to my chair. Sanctuary. So I'm thinking, well, I can fix all this. So we're going back through. This is what I love. She said, we're walking back. She said, did you notice the plants along the pathway? Duh. She said, I'm glad. She said, because they're all herbs. She wore jeans. She wore blue jeans. And she said, by the time I get to my chair, I smell like herbs.
Mm. Wow.
So I realized that the whole time we're walking, I'm distracted. In other words, what she taught me was the chair, the sanctuary, that's important, but more important is the portal.
Yeah, the herbs, the path.
The herb, the portal. And we have so many examples of portals. A Shabbat meal. You've been to a Shabbat meal? A candle is lit, a prayer is said, a portal. Those of us from liturgical traditions, the Lord be with you.
Yeah. Or the entrance song, just the entrance procession.
Yeah. Portal. And so the portal it's just like it's a reset button. Portal. And when I ask people, can you look for your portals? And some people are thinking, well, I don't. And then one woman says, my sanctuary is I walk with my friend. That's where I feel the swing set and the being real, being seen. And she said, but what's my portal? And then she realized, when I sit down and tie my tennis shoes, I know I'm going on my walk. That's my portal.
Yeah, that's a great image.
Tying the tennis shoes. And so what I literally do with the portal is like, the Lord be with you. I put on music. You've been to my garden. You know where my sanctuary is, my patio is.
Yeah.
Before I go out to my patio, I put on music. And the music is like, the Lord be with you. Mm-hmm. That's my portal. The portal is a reset button.
Yeah.
Because it puts you in a place of gratitude.
Yeah. So, Terry, what are some roadblocks that inhibit us from being able to access our sanctuary?
The need to be perfect.
Yeah.
Because I want it to be perfect, I can't access it. The need for it to accomplish something, because I need to justify it. Because people say, how is your sanctuary? Oh Lord, like I'm being graded on it.
Yeah.
It's like like when you do prayer time or whatever. How was it? Well, and as soon as I get in that mindset, that I'm being judged or weighed or measured, then it's going to be a roadblock.
Yeah.
In other words, the freedom just to receive it. I love the Shabbat thing. That's like the prayer, and the thing about it is, I'm not asking myself, did I do the prayer well enough?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not asking, am I feeling it?
Yeah.
One guy said to me at one of the workshops, he said, okay, I've been doing centering prayer, and some people in the audience will know what centering prayer is. He said, I've been doing it for 15 years. He said, but I'm still not getting it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, you know what your problem was? You signed it up for the 30-year one, I think. That's your problem. You needed to sign up for the 50. Father Keating had a special one. But see, that's the roadblock right there. Is the question? I'm not getting it. Yeah. In other words, it's doing its work already in me.
Lisa identifies a roadblock. She says, how do we tell people close to us in a kind way we need to have a moment of sanctuary?
You look kindly in their face and say, you're not going to like me unless I have sanctuary now.
Yeah.
No, you say, you know what, and this is a great one. A part of the process of this is re-educating the people around us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's important. Yes.
This is vital. This is important. And part of the paradigm shift in me checking in with you is, how's your, tell me about your sanctuary. And one of the realities is, as people get to know that about me, that they know downtime, I need my downtime.
Yeah.
I need my time at the monastery. I need my time on my patio. I need just my 10 minutes of coffee.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I want to get to kind of the big implications of this and what will happen if we do this. But before we make that move, are there any other practical things you want to say about how to create sanctuary?
Yeah, and well, I did one portal. So I want people to look for their portals. That's a big deal, and ask about portals. Portals are a big deal. And then the second one is a Celtic word, KM, CAIM, KM.
Uh-huh.
And KM. Huh?
What is KM?
KM is the Celtic spirituality, Celtic Christians. The KM, and this would be a few hundred years ago. It's an invisible circle drawn around you that keeps you safe even in the darkest of times. So the KM, in the language that Diana would understand, KM is the liturgy.
Yeah.
It's the container.
Right.
So a sanctuary has KM, like Betty. Let's go back to Betty. Her KM was her wicker chair,
right?
The flowers around it. In other words, that's the framework that made sanctuary possible.
Parker Palmer talks about that too, as the classroom for people who are really gifted teachers. That the classroom is supposed to become that circle, that safe space in which.
That's actually perfect. So, for example, part of the KM for me is a garden is part of the KM for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is gone. This can't be a part of the KM.
Bring it in. Yeah.
Can't be part of the circle.
Yeah.
And so that's a part of the deal. And I know we're pushing against the time, but I need to give myself, because it's not a boundary as a wall. It's more of a fence that enables me to have something to push against.
Yeah.
Because once you have the liturgy, once you know what the liturgy is, you can sing with your whole heart.
Yeah.
You can pray with your whole heart.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're not worried about the boundary anymore.
Right.
The boundary gives you the freedom now just to let go.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the power of it.
So if we did this, Terry, if we got sort of good, or at least tried to recognize the moments of sanctuary in our life and made that sort of intentional, gave ourselves permission to do that, what's going to happen? What would happen to us? What would happen to those around us? What would happen to the world?
Well, for starters, I was just noticing that Keith said it's pronounced, KM is pronounced kind. Yeah, there's two ways to pronounce it, and yeah, I take the point, but the Celtic people that I talk to pronounce it KM, but it's at least it's spelled CIIM, so it's about the presence. What would happen is that we become places of healing. This is the big deal.
Yeah.
We become places of healing.
Yeah.
And so more than ever, and this is why this is really a big deal. More than ever in our culture right now, people are the anxiety just in our world, politics alone, just the anxiety because the uncertainty, and we need places where we are replenished and nourished, renourished, and rehydrated, and because I can't live without it, and it does a disservice to the people I know and love if I don't create and help create sanctuary for them too.
Yeah, yeah. I really resonate with you're saying that we become a place of healing or people of healing, and again, those of us who were raised with that sort of sense of religion that said we're not good enough. Today, these days, I'm thrilled with Pope Francis. I'm Roman Catholic, and Pope Francis over and over and over and over again is saying that the church and the people of the church need to be a ministry of healing. Above anything else, we need to be about healing, and that's such a refreshing message, an important message that a lot of us didn't get growing up.
Yeah, and the thing is, Daniel was asked how you spell KM. It's CAIM, the Celtic word, and they can look it up. The island of Iona talks about it. But the thing about the being healing is that I don't need to have a strategy to heal. Here's what I believe: if I create swing sets, if I create places where people are seen and are real, it heals.
Yeah.
It heals.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people are worried that they have to be tactically or technically good at this thing. No. One of my great permissions for people is go practice, go do sanctuary and be willing to screw up at it.
Yeah.
Because it begins to take a toll in a good way on our spirit as we are hydrated, rehydrated, replenished.
Yeah. Well, we're almost toward the end here. I want to make sure we get some of these last comments in here. Let's see, Terry, your portal is also a glass of wine. Portal is two puppies curling up beside you. Birds singing, the smell of flowers. Sometimes
are people writing that? See, because I don't see that. You see more.
Yeah, you probably scrolled up past you. Expand your window some more, and you'll see them. Let's see what else here. I always make an appointment with myself on my calendar. When someone asks me to do something, I tell them, "Sorry, I've got an appointment."
That's an allowable deal.
Yeah, yeah.
I used to put a red X on my calendar and tell people I had a date with my ex, and then they didn't mess with me. Hey, that's a good thing about, by the way, animals instinctively know about sanctuary.
Yeah.
That's why animals are portal. The editor of this book's Sanctuary, Vanita Wright, she said her portal was that was her favorite part of the book. And she said her portal was her cat jumping on her chair at the end of work. In other words, the cat was like the Lord. The cat knew. And she said, I had my glass of wine, and that's true. Wine is a good portal.
It is a very good portal.
That she had her glass of wine and her cat. And see, but once you acknowledge that, it's almost like you can do that. Because just think what happens when we do that. The Lord be with you. It's like,
yeah. Let's see. Rodney said, when I experience my sanctuary, I find that I can create a safe place, a sanctuary between me and thee, a place where others can find portal to a shared sanctuary. Sue said, I see a spiral wherever I am. Keith said, or just port instead. I think that's a wine reference there.
Well, it's curious because my grandmother didn't know that she was a portal for me.
Yeah.
And there are times I don't know that I'm a portal, but what I can assure people is the more you begin to practice these things, the more you begin to notice portals. And the more you begin to, like, just for example, just the ability to sit down with somebody and, okay, can I buy a cup of coffee, may be a portal for their sanctuary.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. And this is what we've talked about today. We covered why we need sanctuary. We looked at what sanctuary looks like. We got a couple of practical ideas on how we can find and create sanctuary. And we discussed how much better off we're going to be when we discover sanctuary, and what the transformation of the world's going to be, which is, Terry pointed out, a great image about us being people of healing, the world becoming a place of healing. Terry, I know there's a lot more to say about this. You want to give folks some idea what?
Well, I've never done, I have a book on sanctuary. I do workshops on sanctuary, and now this is the first e-course we've done on sanctuary. It's actually a pretty jam-packed thing, and it's 12 sessions. It's 1 month, 3 sessions a week, and you can go at your own pace. There's no big deal. But the best part about it is a community of people, and we'll be sharing photos of sanctuary, photos of portals. We'll be having conversations back and forth. I'll be a part of the e-course, working with people, because we can actually have these conversations that people are starting on the side here about ways to do that. And so, yes, it was really fun for me, the last e-course I did on pausing, just to be a part of it, to be a part of the conversation, to see the photos that people are sharing. And this one will be great on sanctuary. I'm really looking forward to it.
So maybe you just want to go through these points of what folks are going to discover in this e-course.
Yeah, well, the same that we talked about earlier about life-giving choices, but it's about practicing it, because it's about naming things. At the end of each session, there'll be several more exercises, and so people can, if you're not into the person talking to other people, that's fine. I always tell people, just talk about somebody who's not in the e-course. That's what we do. But anyway, so there will be exercises for personal reflection and depth. And yeah, go to the next slide. Is there another slide?
Yeah. Next one there. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah, you were talking about.
I mean, the thing is, I want people just to be glad. I want to be glad to be here, glad to be alive. And a French priest in the 1700s called it the sacrament of the present moment.
Yeah.
I love that. The sacrament of the present moment.
Yeah.
And so understand how hurry and distraction take a toll. We'll be naming it with each other. Here's my favorite part about doing these workshops and or e-courses is somebody will, just like I've already learned here with people saying things, they trigger something in me.
Yes.
See? And that I'm thinking, oh, yes, that I get that. That's great. And when people say great stuff like that, I need them to know I steal it and use it in my next workshop, and I never give them credit. But we need each other, not just to sharpen one another, but for that all of us become more rounded too. Learn the ingredients necessary. We're going to go into quite a bit of depth about that, just about how it slows us down, how it connects us to all of our senses, what the KM is all about, the boundaries. We're going to talk a lot more about that. It does cover ways to be intentional about making sanctuary, and the intentional part, a lot of people mention that, is how am I specific about it, and experience how we let life in. That's it. I don't go to a place just that sanctuary takes me away from the muddle. Like my grandmother, cancer was in the sanctuary.
Yeah.
The bad stuff was in the sanctuary.
Yeah, that's important, I think. It's not like sanctuary is free of problems.
Exactly. So the sanctuary is the place where we want that to be. Through our online course portal and during live calls, we'll share reflections, practices, conversations. Yeah, befriend yourself. That's the big deal. Yeah, be gentle with yourself. Befriend yourself. And it's not selfish. Let's repeat that. It's not selfish.
Yeah.
In the best way, this is life-giving to the people around you.
And you're going to be present throughout this.
I'll be in every one of the sessions. I'll take the sessions. People can take it at their own pace. You don't have to go at that pace. You can go at your own pace. But I will be in every one of the sessions, and I'll be in the comment thing. I'll be going through the exercises. And so I'll be sharing the photos of where I'm at that time, too.
Okay, so if folks want to register for the course, the website address down there on the bottom, that's where you go to register. terryhershey.com/find-your-create-space-for-grace. Type all that in.
I'm going to do another webinar about hyphens.
Yeah. There are some more comments, and we can look at those. And if folks have any other things they want to add in or questions about the course, even we can talk about that, or you can just tell us more stories.
I'm reading this. Vicky, hi Terry from Colorado. A new sanctuary space for me is being grandma and hanging around with my 7th-old grandson. As the sustaining partner, do I need to pay for this course? David, no, you don't. If you are a sustaining partner to Sabbath Moment, this course is free for you, and people will get when they go to sign on if they become a sustaining partner. Sabbath Moment is my Monday email. I didn't mention that. I mean, I'm sure that many of the people who are here are Sabbath Moment readers. But to sign up for the Monday email, Sabbath Moment, if you are a sustaining partner, the course is free for you. So yes, thank you for mentioning that, David. You're good with that. A lot of people do e-courses. They don't want to chat with people. That's not why they're doing them. Mm-hmm. And I get that, and that's fine. Do it as a personal thing. That's not a problem at all. But you can still read what other people are saying and writing.
Cool.
Yeah. That part.
So it's like the course is more like a community that you're creating there on in
right.
that space.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you're just trying to. As I say, you'll hear and see things, and that'll trigger something which keeps the conversation going.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
It's great. Thanks, Nick.
All right, everyone. Take care. God bless. Thanks, Terry.
All right. Bye now.
Bye, everybody.